Thank you so much for joining us, Asana. It's amazing having you here. I feel really lucky that you're a part of this chat today for the International Women's Day session focusing on equality, equity, and women. So please tell me a little bit about yourself, your occupation at Microsoft. You're the Azure Cloud lead, and you're also a technical woman at the Microsoft board, and you're also a diversity and inclusion advocate. Like, wow, so
Yeah.
much going on. Tell me a little bit about that.
Lots of titles. Yes, thank you. So yeah, as you said, I'm currently an Azure specialist, and an Azure cloud lead, whichever kind of title that you use. But essentially, my job is to specialize in cloud computing, specifically Azure, and then support organizations with deploying solutions and using it, and kind of helping them with digital transformation and using cloud services. So cloud is it's still pretty new. I think if you don't work in the tech sector, you might not know what it is, but if you're wondering, it's like iCloud on your phone, but for enterprises, and it's slightly different when it's on our side with Azure. So that's what I do from a day-to-day basis. That's essentially my 9 to 5 job. And then outside of that, I do a lot of women in tech, women at Microsoft staff as well. So the technical women at Microsoft board is essentially as part of our what we call employee resource group and ERG. So I engage in that. So helping the ERG with having events and webinars and things like that to help women with their careers internally. Stuff like coaching yourself, how to deal with imposter syndrome, how to be a good public speaker. So just improving our skills as women within kind of this sector and just in business in general. And then outside of that as well, when it comes to diversity and inclusion, I've just always been a big D&I advocate. We know that D&I is important. That's a fact, not an opinion. There's lots of research on it. So it's really important for me. And I try to kind of bring that advocate to everything that I do. So along with my work full time, obviously with work, but then also all the activities outside of that as well.
Everything you're saying just resonates perfectly. I love it. What motivated you to pursue a career in tech? And have you encountered any unique experiences as a woman of color in this field?
Yeah, so in regards to what motivated me, I was just really excited by technology at some point. I think I'm very lucky in the generation that I grew up in, because I was born in 1995. So I'm in that kind of tipping point where, the last generation didn't have so much technology, and then this generation
Yes.
has loads. So I remember when I first wanted to do my computer science degree, that was around the time the rise of WhatsApp and like Uber and kind of those type of tech companies. And then it was a real like shift from using I grew up using a computer to having a laptop to having like wireless on my phone. So yeah, I could really see the changes that tech would bring, and it was super exciting. And then by then, obviously, lots of films came out about tech. So then you would be able to see it, and you'd be like, oh my God, that's really interesting. Obviously, it doesn't quite look like that in real life, but that was what motivated me. I was like, this is just exciting. It's going to be different to what I've been doing previously. And then I went down that route. And then unique experiences. I don't know if I have unique experiences to other women who work in kind of male dominated industries, but it's all about kind of learning how to advocate for yourself, dealing with, microaggressions and things like that, where it's like, people may not mean for something to come out the way that it does, but it does end up being like that because, again, you're experiencing being a woman in this space, but then they're also experiencing having a woman in this space when they're not used to it. So, you get different kind of experiences, especially in the world of working virtually, where no one knows what you're going to look like until you have your camera on or they meet you face to face. So things like that is things that I think all of us have to deal with in kind of male dominated industries, finding a way to navigate, finding our voice, and things like that as well.
Definitely, definitely. You touched upon a very important topic, which was actually one of my questions. So, how do you balance advocating for equality and equity in the
Mm.
workspace with the potential backlash or indifference that can come from colleagues who may not understand these values exactly, who may not know, where they need to stand? And
Mhm.
you're in a perfect place, to be right now. But there might be other women who are, watching us, joining us, and they might find it a little harder, kind of expressing how they think and how they feel about this whole issue. So can you please tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So like you said, I'm definitely very lucky because a lot of the things come from the top down. The company that I work for is very big on kind of diversity and inclusion and promotes that culture internally. But if you're in a space where they don't, it definitely can be difficult. It definitely can be draining. But I think the only thing that you can focus on is the benefit of change, right? You have to let people know. And unfortunately, we often have the burden of being the ones to educate. But if you can't educate every single person, you can't, right? Like you can't spend your time. It's better to kind of do it at scale. Can you speak to someone about having DNI courses brought into the company? Can you speak to them about any workshops that can be done? Can you do any kind of presentations, like really advocating for it to be done at scale and taking some of that responsibility off your shoulders onto the organization's shoulders instead. And you'll find that I think a lot of people will be open. It's just they need to kind of think about a different perspective, right? You need to kind of let them know, like, well, if you kind of look at it this way, you need to make it a little bit more relatable in a way. But I completely understand it can be hard to navigate, and you have to deal with the fact that some people just won't, they won't change, or they unfortunately they won't be so open to it straight away. So focus your energy on other things, and don't feel guilty that you can't make the change. You know, by yourself. You need help, and definitely
Yeah.
look for it as well.
That's how we become ourselves, I think, in the
Yep.
way that we're confident in who we are and what we're doing. And it's just up to them what
Mm.
part of it they can understand, they can see, or they can accept. It's very meaningful, yes. And the most important question, my last question: what advice would you give to other women who are interested in pursuing a career in tech? I mean, yourself have a CS degree,
Mm.
and it might be something that you discovered that helped you massively in your
Mm.
career or before, or it's maybe a past mistake that taught you a great deal. Anything that can be a little, keynote from our, talk today, to other women.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the first thing that I would say advice wise is do as much research as possible into the tech industry and figure out what you want to do. I think a lot of women are kind of put off by kind of tech because they think tech is one job and it's one set of skills, and you have to look a certain way. You must have done a computer science degree in order for you to be in tech. But that's not true at all. I have one, but there are plenty of people who don't, right? Some people have business degrees, some people have psychology degrees, some people have no degrees, right? They've taken a different path. So I think it's important to do your research and remember that there are so many different jobs in the tech industry which require lots of different skills. So make sure you start there. And then I think the second thing would be do as much networking as possible. Of course, there are nowhere near enough women in the tech industry, but I think a lot of companies are starting to have those networking events, starting to do those kind of insight days into the office, and starting to do all those kind of things. So try and find a network of women and try and see if you can attend these events, speak to people, ask questions, and then just really put yourself out there. If you're interested in tech, know that it's a competitive space. A lot of people want to join the industry, but just know that you've got the right skills, and being a woman is not a hindrance. In fact, it's a great addition to you. We have our own set of skills, our own perspective that we also bring, and we definitely deserve to have a space at the table essentially. So for me, that would be the two biggest tips that I would give for anyone who's looking to get started.
Definitely. And joining Women in Tech Forum also helped me with that as well. I was able to connect with women like yourself and so many influential women since I actually joined the event. So amazing. That's just perfect. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. Like all of these bits that you're sharing, the insights, your experience, I'm sure is going to help other women massively in
Mhm.
believing in themselves, getting to the point where they want to be, because at the end of the day, they just have to believe that that's what they can do. That's what they deserve. And I
Absolutely.
believe it's just going to help them massively just achieving their goals at the end.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That's just
All right.
amazing.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.